Welcome to the F3 podcast where we discuss all things pertaining to faith, family, and finances. Okay, we are your host today. I am Dr. Lionel M. Blair Sr., and I'm sitting next to the glorious, the magnificent, her
Oh
eminence,
Lord.
her grace, the sainted mother herself, Dr. Jasmine Blair. Listen, we got a good one for you today, as always.
Welcome everybody to the F3 podcast. Thank you for joining us. This is your first time with us. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Hit the notification bell and you'll be notified every time we premiere a new episode. And be sure to take us with you. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Castbox, and anywhere your favorite podcasts are streamed. And be sure to subscribe there as well. So all our new episodes will be pushed right over to your mobile device. And check out the links in the description in the show notes, how you can get some of our books, some of our trainings, and some of our other great products and services that we have available. And if you have a show topic or a question you want us to answer here on the show, be sure to click that link and you can leave us a voicemail. And who knows, your topic might be the topic of the next episode. So let's get into today's topic. What does it mean to leave and cleave? You know, we're in a day and age where a lot of the old school tactics, as I like to say, are starting to fade away. Now, if you've watched our show before, everything old school wasn't necessarily good, but all of it wasn't bad either. And in today, more and more, we're seeing people who are young, they're entering marriages, they're building these families, but they have not quite mastered the art of leave and cleave. What does it mean? How do you go about that? How do you set boundaries with family members, especially parental family members,
Yeah.
when it comes to your marriage and your family? We're going to talk about that today because that's an important subject. And I believe it's going to help many of you begin to restructure some things and possibly heal some old hurts and wounds that your spouse may have that you don't even know about.
Right.
So I'm going to kick it over to you to kind of get us started today. What does it mean to leave and cleave?
Well, we first hear this instance from the Bible when God first fashioned Eve from the side of Adam, and Adam said, this is flesh of my flesh,
Mm-hmm.
bone of my bone, and he said, for this cause, a man shall leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife.
Mm.
Okay. So first of all, the first person who has to cleave first is the husband.
Woo! Y'all hear that, men's?
All right. So what does it mean to leave your father and mother's house and
Woo.
cleave to your wife? That means that your wife now becomes numero uno under the Godhead. Okay. Under Christ, your wife becomes numero uno, the one that you are primarily responsible for. Okay. So that means wifey comes first. Wifey come before mama.
Mm-hmm.
Wifey comes before daddy.
That's it.
Even wifey's word comes before mama and daddy.
That's it.
But you'll be surprised because being in the field that we are in ministry, we're in the ministry field, and you'll be surprised at how many couples we've counseled, and this has been a problem.
Y'all.
I've seen literally, and it's mainly mothers,
Mm-hmm.
and it's mainly mothers.
Yep.
Some fathers may do it every now and then, but it's mainly the mothers.
Yes.
They have such a grip on their sons.
Mm.
You know, I've seen where you can't have an anniversary unless you bring your mama. You gotta bring your mama everywhere with you.
Mm-mm.
You can't even move if God can't even tell you to move.
Mm.
God can't even tell you to move because you don't leave your mama by herself. Okay, and that makes me also look at the parents. Like, you raise these children to be so attached at the hip. You
Mm-hmm.
got to learn sometimes to let your children go like on their own.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you got to learn to let your children go on their own sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
You understand that? So So if you don't, it's going to be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a problem. All right. So this is why I say again, when it comes to leave and cleave, a man shall leave his father's and mother's house.
Mm-hmm.
That means the little bit of rule that they had, okay, they no longer got like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that means you can't be a little mama's boy. Listen, honor your mother and father. The word honor means in that context, that word honor means to speak well of. Look it up.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean to prioritize.
Oops.
Okay. Huh? It doesn't mean to prioritize over your spouse.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen people move their mamas and their grandmamas and granddaddies in the house, and the spouse wasn't the spouse was against it from the beginning. Well, that's my mama.
That's my mama.
That's my mama. That's my granddaddy.
That's my granddaddy.
That's my grandmama.
Mm-mm.
You understand? You understand how disrespectful that is to a wife? Because see, here's the thing: a wife manages her home,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if a wife manages the home, her primary sphere of responsibility is not your mama.
Mm-mm.
It's not your daddy. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You know, your the word of your wife have to matter over every person.
Ooh.
I know people have gotten mad at me in the past because I listen to my wife. I mean, she's not over me, but I consider how she feels and what she says. And you know what people used to say to me? You need to just shut her up and sit her down. What? You know how many times I have missed God for not heeding my wife's voice? Okay.
Mm-mm. Wisdom's a her for a reason, y'all.
Wisdom is a her for a reason.
That's what the Bible say.
Okay. Now listen, I'm King Big Daddy around here. Okay. I run this. All right. But I run this with her.
Come on.
Did you catch that? See, in the beginning, let me say this. Both of them were called Adam. I believe it's in Genesis 5.
Mm-hmm.
I believe. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's where it's at. So even though they were both Adam and Eve, they both was called Adam at the same time. And yes, Adam was still the head. Okay, Adam was still the head. All right, but they governed together. Okay, so should I say this? I'm gonna get in trouble.
Oh Lord,
I'm gonna get in trouble. You know, all this extra. Listen, I believe a wife should submit to the husband's rule. I do. But you notice if you read the effects of the fall, okay, the wife being ruled by her husband in the way that we describe it and the way that we describe it and see it today, okay, is a result of the curse. Women in the Bible were almost like second-class citizens. That was a result of the curse. But Jesus came and undid the curse.
Come on.
And this is why throughout the New Testament, okay, and throughout church history, you begin to see women rise.
Yes.
All right. You begin to see women rise. You know, and some of these denominations are demonic because women cannot be senior leaders. Women can't be apostles, women can't be pastors or nothing. They might can be evangelists.
Maybe.
Evangelists, missionaries. The missionaries who don't go on no missions. Okay, you may feed the poor. I don't know who came up with that, but that is a demonic, oppressive structure.
Right.
Okay. There's demonic oppressive structure. My wife ain't just some first lady out here. Matter of fact, she's not a first lady.
Negative.
She's the only lady. Okay. Okay. So 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 here's the thing. And I believe that husbands should raise their wives to rule alongside them. Why? Because you're co-heirs of the gift of life, the Bible says.
Come on.
Co-heirs. Co-heirs. That means both of y'all ruling. You understand? But I also believe that the husband is the head of the wife. See, when the Bible says the man is the head of every woman, in the Greek, it means husband and wife.
That's it.
So the husband is the head of the wife, like Christ is the head of the church. Same analogy. All right. And what does he do? He sanctifies the wife. He lifts up the wife. He beautifies the wife. Okay. He makes her glorious. You ain't glorious unless you're ruling. So I remember I had several inboxes over the years. You need to shut her up and you need to rule your house. Excuse me? Because first of all, my wife is an apostle and she's a prophet. Okay? My wife is going to have a voice. You understand what I'm saying? And she's a whole human being. She has opinions, thoughts, and feelings and things, and she has the right to express them.
Uh-oh.
So anybody that don't like it, they can kick rocks with no shoes on. Why? Because I learned to leave and cleave. And see, when you leave and cleave, you also have a duty.
Come on.
To your wife first. Okay. Yeah, let me say that again. You when you leave and cleave to your wife, you have a duty to your wife first. Your first kingdom duty outside is to your wife, and then it's to what y'all doing together. You understand? So that's a husband's responsibility. Now, when it comes to the wife, okay, when the husband leaves and cleaves to her, okay, that's a connection she has to protect
and cleave back.
And
I find that a lot of women get to this place sometimes where they don't cleave back. They end up being a married woman and not necessarily a wife.
Right.
For a lot of women, I find that there's a transition that takes place, and there's a lot of things that you have to give up. It's not necessarily bad, but when you're mature, you understand these things are part of the process. Aside from giving up your last name and maybe, where you were living before, maybe you transition churches, or maybe you had to relocate or some other things, you cannot function the way that you did before. You can't always drop everything and go hang out with the girls on Friday night,
right,
when you have a family to tend to. And I find in a lot of cases, in addition to these men that end up being mama's boys, right, mama this, grandma this, you have women that either want to be married and still function like they're single, or I want to do this, I want to go do this. I'm just like, okay,
come on, it's a lot of that.
But what about your household?
Right.
I've met young women, I want to get married. I'm believing God for a husband. Okay, well, do you know how to cook? Well, I can maybe cook 2 or 3 little dishes. I don't really like cooking. I'm praying he could cook. Now, if this your second marriage, you a little seasoned, your kids grown, you want somebody that's okay, that's a little different when both y'all seasoned, ain't nobody raising no kids. And, either you want to cook or go out. If you have a young family, and I don't know how y'all looked at these prices lately, but, somebody posted on Facebook the other day, 12 rolls of tissue was almost $30 now. It's not ideal to go out and eat all the time when you have a family that you're raising. You're going to have to cook.
Or to go clubbing every Saturday.
No.
That's immature. All the people you see in the clubs all the time, immature.
I'm going to get to that in a minute, because see, that's part of the problem. Your child at home, they're all over the place, and you in the club. But anyway, let's go back to this cooking piece. There are responsibilities that come along, and a lot of women want the fairy tale of a wedding. They want the fairy tale of, being enthralled in splendor and all the flowers and all this celebration, but you want the wedding more than you want the marriage.
Come on.
And that's
about
the
the
problem.
image.
Yes,
It's
the,
about the image.
the image. And that's the problem with social media. You see somebody riding in a golden chariot with white horses. Oh, I want that. I want to feel special. So much so to the point you act like you the HNIC. It's your wedding and the husband, the polar husband just present. It's more about the image, the thrill, the excitement of the wedding than the actual longevity of the marriage. And a lot of people get bored. A lot of these women get bored and uninterested because they did not really take the time to fully understand the dynamics of a marriage. And today you have a lot of these women who have a more skewed view when it comes to how a marriage is supposed to function. Listen, you can do what you want to do, but if you're going to really do this thing the biblical way, you're not in charge of everything. Let me say that again. You're not in charge of everything. Now, that doesn't mean you need to be degraded or belittled or devalued, but you have to understand if you have a view and your husband has a view, he's heard both sides of the story. Okay, after hearing what you're saying, I've given it thought and prayer. We still gonna do it this way. You need to go along with that. But that's control. You're not dying. You're not being abused. You're not being manipulated. You're not being mishandled. You just can't get your way. And see, that often comes from these daddy's girls mentality. They're spoiled. They get whatever they want. Well, I'm going to just call my daddy. My daddy can fix it. No, you need to let your daddy be and submit to your husband. It's not the end of the world because you don't get your way.
That's right.
It's not. And sometimes he may have to, you know what? I should have listened to you. I wasn't really sure that was God, but now I see that was God's way of warning me. He'll learn. But what's the most important is for you to stay in your place. Stay in your place and let God work it out. And it is a unique, that's why the Bible calls it a mystery, because it is a unique connection how a marriage reflects Christ's relationship with the church.
Right.
But when do you see the church telling Christ what to do?
Uh-oh.
When do you see the church telling Christ, well, I'm grown. I'm going to do what I want to do. You don't control me. That's abuse. That ain't fair. Mm-hmm. But you don't see the church doing that. So you've really got to understand it's not just about, him loving you, protecting you, and providing for you and keeping you safe and being mindful of you. Are you prepared to have all of that, or then also go through those moments where you don't get your way?
Come on.
Are you prepared in those moments where you know what? This is probably going to end up this way, but I'm going to just stay in my place and pray and cover the situation that way? Are you prepared for those moments? I've seen all these memes that, on social media, these people joking, well, if, she pay her own bills and do this and this, she don't listen and talk back. And that's why you still single or you keep going through these divorces. Because you think that stuff is cute. It's not. You can have a voice for yourself without talking back. That advocating for yourself and talking back and being blatantly disrespectful and brash and nasty are two very different things. Stop letting society and all these little shows on TV lie to you, because half of these people are side chicks and girlfriends and they've never been wives anyway. But y'all watching that stuff. Yeah, that's right. I'm going to tell my man. No. These people are paid actors. They're side chicks. They're girlfriends. A lot of them are baby mamas. I don't like that term, but you get where I'm going for the example. Most of these people have never even been wives. And if they have, they haven't been in successful marriages the biblical way with any type of longevity. You keep watching these little TV shows, these little reality shows, thinking that that's what life is supposed to be, and watch what happens. Because a real man is only going to tolerate but so much of that.
That's right.
Yes, you should have a voice. Yes, you should be respected. But don't sit there and use that as an occasion to be contentious. The Bible says it's better for a man to live on a roof than to be in a house with a contentious woman. You always got an attitude. You always complain. Ain't nothing right. He can't do this. Can't do that. You worse. Let me say that again. You worse. Well, but then these be the main ones. Oh Lord, these be the main ones that's in the church, and this the little brother or the deacon or the elder. Y'all pray for my husband. He's still at home. We believe in God to get him in the church. What have you thought about cooking him a meal? You always leaving the TV dinners at home because you in church from sun up to sundown on Sunday. Maybe you should skip one of them 3-4 services and just cook them a meal.
Yeah.
Watch a movie with them. Y'all go for a walk in the park or something like that. See that because this is the other extreme. You have some women have been oppressed in ministry for so long, and
Yes,
we
they
know
have.
that this is not a secret thing. We still have people to this day that, for whatever reason, feel like women can't preach, can't wear pants, can't wear lipstick,
That's
makeup,
dumb.
whatever. But the other extreme is you have the overzealous women because you're so determined to be in ministry that you're neglecting to realize you haven't left and cleaved properly to the husband that God has given you. So for your right to be independent, you have lost out or forgotten your place in cleaving and being submitted to your husband. It's hard for a man to feel empowered when he feels as a husband, when he feels like he has no say. Every time he says something that you don't like, you go into this whole tantrum. You accuse him of being manipulative. You accuse him of being controlling. You're like a toddler having a tantrum. After a while, he either gonna shut up or leave. Well, I don't know what happened. He just don't have a lot to say. He just come home and don't say nothing. Because every time he says something, you complain. Every time he says something, you're so combative, he just don't want to say nothing. It's almost like a PTSD. Why am I going to say something if you're going to be irate and belligerent every time I try to step in place to lead?
Come on. That's it.
That's exhausting.
Very.
It's exhausting and it's very hostile. So when leaving and cleaving, you've got to understand it requires you to yield. That's really what submission is, to yield. If you know how to drive for real and you see a yield sign, you slow down, often having to come to a complete stop before you make that turn. You look at the traffic, you see who's coming, and you gauge it. Either you're going to slow down and let them go by and follow on behind them in the flow of traffic, or if they're coming fast, you may have to get to a place where you come to a complete stop before you can continue. That's what submission is. It doesn't mean that you don't have a voice. And I find that with this generation, because they're on this, the wife is equal to the husband in an unhealthy way.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know how to submit. That's part of the other issue. I saw something the other day on social media. And it was this compilation, but they've got these female, relationship coaches, dating coaches or whatever. And they hire these people to kind of match make. At least 3 of the top female dating relationship coaches from the past decade are retiring because they said these women they don't know what they want. They don't know how to communicate with men. They don't want a good, every time they find a good man for them, they complain. They have unrealistic expectations. Now, these are other women who are working with women and dealing with women and dealing with women's issues.
Wow.
But yet they're leaving the field. Now, granted, they're sitting on a pretty amount, so they can go on and do something else. But they are leaving the field because these women are just so difficult. And
That's
this is
sad.
why it's important. It's very sad. And these are secular people.
Right.
So you've got to assess, are your expectations really realistic? Or do you want a build a man fantasy image of a husband?
Come on.
Some of y'all still have daddy issues. Some of you, some of you were never a daddy's girl, and that's what you project on your husband to be the daddy that you never were, to spoil you, to give that you never had, to spoil you, give you this, give you that, take you here. If you say please long enough, let you have your way. No. You need to deal with the unhealed little girl inside.
Come on.
So that you can learn how to submit to male authority in the form of your husband without being offended and kicking and screaming and hollering about you being controlled, manipulated, and abused.
We need to give you an offer today.
But this is an issue. Because as much as there's, we love to talk about lying, cheating men and pastors, but we don't talk about these women who are so broken and so emotionally confused. And I can do a whole nother episode on that. Because when you sleep with these different men and you form these biological processes and bonds, you get so confused because you keep forming and attaching and breaking these bonds that were never meant to be broken. Now you're all over the place and you give this man all of these broken pieces to put together, and you whine and complain every time he tries to wash you and remove something that doesn't have any business being there in the first place. This is why there has to be more soul work before you're married and even after you get married. For male and female, but I'm specifically speaking to the women right now because you'll find some of the things that are your gripe with your husband are really your own issue that you should have worked out before. You're putting expectations on him that if you really went in prayer and sought God about, it's not for him. This is just stuff that you wanted, or you still subconsciously holding on to an old fantasy from somebody else. So you've got to understand what leave and cleave means, and you have to be prepared for all of the systematic adjustments that come along with that. It's not control, it's part of the process. On social media, we have this thing, oh, well, we're supposed to be building together, these keys and LLCs. Okay, well, that requires you to give up some of your illegitimate freedom. That requires you to come to a place to say, you know what? I can't always do what I used to do. I can't always just do what I feel like it. That requires you to follow his lead on some things long enough to see them materialize and be successful.
And I want to point out something right
Yes,
there.
go ahead.
Because there's a saying like the man makes a house, but the woman, the wife makes it, the wife makes it a home, or something like that. And see, the Bible calls wisdom a her for a reason. That's why women make the best administrators. For real. I mean, you got some men that are pretty good at it, but women literally make the best administrators. All right, because they have the ability to manage.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they have the women, wives and women have the ability to take the vision of a husband. And see, I understand this very well. I understand this. They have the ability to take the vision of a husband and put things together and cause that thing to materialize.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? This is why husband and wives need to be working together. Yeah. But if you're so busy fighting the order, your genius cannot emerge.
Come on.
Or let me say that again. If you're so busy fighting the order, your genius cannot emerge. So this is why um, this is why women need to understand their placement and their role in a marriage. All right, because it's not just about you.
Oops.
It's not. Okay, it's not. You're not called to just be some pretty little housewife that do nothing.
I get so exhausted sometimes listening to some single women, not all, but some. Their day is so self-absorbed. Oh, I went to do this, I went to do that, I went to do that. I'm frolicking around Target or, wherever store, doing this, doing that. I'm shopping, I'm this, I'm that. And I'm thinking, okay, you're not really doing anything constructive. You're not doing anything to build your future.
Mm-mm.
And then I'm listening. I'm like, okay, as soon as you get married and have kids, you're going to have a culture shock because you're going to have to cut all this back, all this unlimited me time. You're going to have to cut back and you're going to have an attitude because it's the furthest thing from your mind that you're going to have to transition this for a season. Now, I believe it's still healthy for you to have me time even after you're married. But if you spend 8 to 10 hours a day when you're not working, having me time, then you're going to feel miserable. Not that you are miserable, but you're going to feel miserable when you wake up and find that you're married with responsibilities. Because some of that me time going to have to be cut back for cooking dinner and washing laundry, organizing the kids, making sure they're doing their homework or whatever else, the business, whatever else pertains to your unique marriage situation. The point is some of that me time is going to have to be exchanged for responsibilities. And if you have not matured in that area, you're going to struggle. You're going to feel like you're being treated unfairly. You're going to feel like you don't have what you need, or you're going to feel like you're being misused or undervalued. No, because during your single time, you did not understand or grasp the idea that it's unrealistic to have all this me time every day when you have a family to tend to.
And we're still talking about cleaving, y'all.
Yes.
Because this is what cleaving looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes me. Did we ever do one on a Proverbs 31 woman?
No,
Okay,
but we'll do
a
that next week.
We're gonna do a separate podcast
Next
on
week.
the Proverbs 31 woman. All right, because while her husband ruled in the gates with the elders, okay, she was making it happen. Okay, she was making a house a home, and guess what? She was bringing money into that home too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he probably made some money from being an elder at the gate, or being a ruler at the gate with the elders. Okay, but guess what? She made that bread happen. So for all y'all who say y'all Proverbs 31 woman, first of all, you say, I don't understand why single women say that, but we'll say that for the next broadcast.
And some of these large church conferences faults. I won't mention any names, but that's where they got that from. It's good to be inspiring, but you got to be married to be okay. Next episode. We'll get to that next week.
Yeah,
we'll get to that next week. But the other part I want to touch on this leave and cleave is the journey of growing towards God and each other, because that's important for both spouses. And I find that a lot of times when the things that we talked about previously aren't present, this tends to be a present problem. You have to grow towards God to grow towards each other. It's almost like a triangle. Here's God at the top. Here's the husband. Here's the wife. Now, as you grow towards God, you end up growing towards each other.
Right.
But if one is growing towards God and the other one's not, you get closer to God and further away. And see, either this person gets offended and say, oh, I'm not loved, I'm not valued, or this person gets lifted up in pride. I'm going to obey God anyway. You see what I'm saying? Right. And then it creates this unbalanced dynamic. Or you have neither one of them growing towards God and they're not growing towards each other, and things are in the same place. Well, why are we not growing? Why are we not progressing? Why things not getting better? Why are we having the same issue? Because nobody's growing towards God to start dealing with that pride and dealing with the lack of the humility, dealing with the selfishness or whatever else is present. See, we forget that a marriage also represents this relationship with Christ and the church.
That's right.
And as you navigate through the journey of marriage, you'll find in the right sense, a very humbling sense, that you're not the great person that you thought you are.
Come on.
But by you allowing God to process these things out of you, you become more refined and more holy, and then you can become one as you grow closer to God. You cannot become one with the stuff in the person that God is trying to break them free from. You just can't do it. And so when you find this lopsided situation, this person keep growing towards God, but it's not your place to just leave your spouse behind. Well, man, they ain't got it. It ain't my problem. That's so prideful and selfish.
Especially if you're the man.
Yes, especially if you're the man. Now, it's a little different when you're the woman, because you can't just yank him along the way you want to. There's a way, and we'll talk about how you win your husband over, through your chaste conduct. There's a way to win him over without lording over him as the wife. But as the husband, this is where you use that submit to me in a healthy way. You don't just use it to get what you want. Right. You use it, all right, come on, baby. I need you praying. Come on. I need you to come to church with me. Look, I know you don't feel like it. We're going to go for about 45 minutes. I need you to come get this word today.
Right.
You've got to show as much interest in your spouse relationship with God as your own. If you're doing all the praying, all the fasting, all the reading, and your spouse is just over here on the wayside waiting for the enemy to come play with their mind, you can't tell me the Holy Ghost didn't tell you nothing about that.
Come on.
So you just laying out in the splendor and plucking dandelions in the field with God, and your spouse that God sent you is just all over here on the side of the road waiting for the devil to come pick them off. And God just got you playing in a field of lilies and didn't tell you nothing about your spouse. Either you have delusion or you're really not in the place with God where you think you are. And I find this to particularly be an issue with a lot of preachers. Spouses all over here. And I mean, we're in a day and age now, we're seeing more preachers get divorced left and right. Even preachers you wouldn't even thought of be getting divorced. Why? Because, and I don't know every situation, but in the large scale of things, this is usually it. One person's growing towards God. The other person is here. And either this person's offended, this person's caught up in the fame and the identity, or it's a little bit of both. And there's no growing towards God together to come closer.
Yeah.
You have to realize if your spouse is not where they need to be, part of that is your fault. Now, that part might only be 1%. But if that 1% is your fault, you have to own it. What did you do to assist them? Did you even lift them up in prayer?
Come on.
Cleaving means that y'all have to do this together. You can't cleave to yourself. So if you here and they there, y'all not cleaving. There's a that's a lifeline. That's a bungee cord between y'all. And they might be up here, they might be back down here. But what are you really doing? And that comes with the priority. Prioritizing your spouse and you having a us mindset. Which brings me to my next point, and I'm gonna let you shed some light on this one. If they don't like your spouse and your spouse didn't do nothing to them, but they all in your face, cut them off.
Mm-hmm.
These people love you and can't stand your spouse. Well, your spouse is a part of you.
Come on.
Your spouse is a part of you. Come on now, that's the issue.
We've cut people off behind that.
And I got a shirt that say, "Don't speak to my husband if you don't speak to me." Why you all in his face and you don't like me and I didn't do nothing to you?
Come on.
Some people are like that. Now, yeah, sometimes in ministry, people are attracted to personalities or gifts or anointings. But some people are just sent by the enemy to cause division and strife. And you got to know how to either confront these people or just lovingly keep your distance from them. Because at the end of the day, God gave y'all a union to cleave together.
Right.
And if you're not cleaving together and you're letting these people come pick you off and you so enamored because somebody's smiling in your face and think you're anointed, you're going to cause rifts in your marriage.
Come on here.
Who cares? Oh, you so great, man of God. Oh my God. I'm just so blessed and honored to know you. Won't even give your wife the time of day. You don't find anything wrong with that?
Don't even ask how your wife doing.
Or you too caught up in your ego. Ooh, somebody noticed me. I'm anointed. I am anointed. See, when you don't deal, I'm anointed. When you don't deal with them issues of attachment and abandonment,
come on.
You're enamored by stuff like that. And then that's how Delilah get up in the mix.
You could be a hero to everybody else and a zero to your wife.
No.
Okay. Listen, we've seen marriages like this. We know what we're talking about here. Okay, we've seen marriages like this, where and it's mainly the husband. He, you know, the wife can be just as gifted and anointed, you know, but it's mainly the husband. Everybody want to, the husband. Oh, he's just such a nice guy, and you know, and this, that, and the third, and he pay more attention to them than he do to his own spouse.
And people don't realize, the church version of somebody. Their spouse actually know them.
Yeah.
You know the public version of their testimony.
You know the man of God. They know the monster. They know the monster. Okay, you know the minister. They know the monster.
It's two different things. For a lot of people, it's two different things.
For real.
So, any closing remarks you got on this episode? This was definitely a good one. We're definitely going to have to pick this up next week when we get into the Proverbs 31. But this was definitely good. So, any closing remarks you got for this episode?
I say it like this, you listen, leave and cleave is what it is. Leave and cleave. That means that your spouse has now become top priority outside of Christ. All right. So you have to learn to perfect that relationship. Okay. If you wanted to flourish and to be what God has called it to be. Because you don't want to end up either miserable or divorced 5 years after marriage, or 10 years, or 20 years. I've seen people get divorced after 15 years. What is that? How? Because you may have left and you may have cleaved, but you stopped staying cleaved. You got to cleave always. This is why I don't let nobody come before her. I don't care who I talk to. Who I minister to. I don't care who's in my life. They don't come before her. Okay. And if she ain't feeling them, I have to consider that, because she may see something I don't. All right. So that's all.
Yeah, that's all for this episode. Join us next time on the F3 podcast. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Be sure to check out the information in the show description box, in the show notes. We've got some great things available for you. You can find out how you can support the podcast and how you can submit your show topic. And until next time on the F3 podcast, goodbye.